Yeah. Been that dude, so they all better take heed. Got the haters going ghost like they Patrick Swayze. I've been talking real shit, y'all been talking crazy. I've been on some new shit, y'all been acting lazy. I've been it, so my words are gon' make it float. I'm like dry ice mixed with alcohol in a bowl. Or below zero winter, go and grab a coat. What else can I say? The kid is just too cold. Never told a fib, was born just too bold. Never had to fold, but did break the mold. And as the story's told, if you didn't know, I'm running up the scope. This is DMO. Can you hear me? There's some of been minds, man, they better fear me. They need glasses, they can't see it clearly. I don't chase the money, it just like to come near me. Yearly, truly, my life is a movie. Took her on a date once, now she tryna groove me. I'm really that guy, they gon' have to sue me. Then had the juice, time to mix it like a smoothie. Groovy, they asked me how I get up, I told them had to start down. Found me some real ones, now I got a crew now. Met a loyal girl, 4 years later, that's my boo wow. And now I'm out here giving new sounds like boom pow.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Haven. Day 2 of our little bi-week recording sesh. And of course, guys, this will, of course, put us all up to date, guys. We had the trade deadline yesterday. So we obviously had some players finding some new homes. But guys, joining me as always is my co-host Kenny. I am Tame, guys. This is the Helmet Haven Football Fuck Up Show podcast. You guys found it. You guys made it. Get your popcorn. Get whatever you need because, guys, we have a good show planned for you today. Starting off with the news, of course, and then we'll go into the other segments. Kenny, where are we starting off with the news?
I'll get to you real quickly. I just need to scroll down a little bit further. Nope, that's post Thursday night. Needed to be on Wednesday. Almost there. Is that it? No, that's not it. Remember, we finished with the... Yeah, I think we're almost there now. I forgot how far we had to scroll down because of all the trading news, too.
Yeah. Trade deadline news,
All
man.
right. All right, here we go. We have Jamison Williams and the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office reviewing a request for a warrant to arrest Williams on a charge of carrying a concealed weapon. NFL says the Lions promptly notified the league upon learning of the matter. We have no further comment at this time.
So how do you think he's going to spin on the wheel of discipline?
I don't know. He might have to sit out like an extra couple games. He's already suspended those 2, and he might get another 1 or 2. I mean, it's not like he's doing anything like heinous, like
True,
accidentally
but
doing a helmet
yeah,
phone
nonetheless, we don't like to hear about that.
Doug Peterson did say that Travis Etienne will return to the field as of obviously this past Sunday's game, so he was able to return.
So, guys, Etienne's finally making a return. He's been very quiet all season. We haven't heard much from him. Obviously, he's been out, and in any games that he has played, he hasn't really done much of anything. It's good to hear that Etienne will be making his return.
As of the week, 8 players of the week are concerned. Browns quarterback Jameis Winston gets player of the week on his side, and Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins gets his for last week's performance.
Yeah, well-deserved on Jameis Winston's part, especially, at least in my opinion, as we established yesterday with his big win over the Ravens, a big upset. So well-earned.
Absolutely. Next up, we obviously had the news that Joe Flacco is expected to remain the starter for the Colts for indefinitely as of now. However, there is talks that Anthony Richardson might take snaps and might start again down the line if they see a reason to start him.
what would be a reason you think would be to start Anthony Richardson over Joe
So
Flacco?
old man
Though?
Joe Flacco's.
What would you see as a reason to start Anthony Richardson over Joe Flacco, though? I mean, Joe Flacco is elite.
Joe Flacco would have to turn in really bad performances. Obviously, we'll get to this past week, but I don't even think this past week was a bad performance per se. He was playing. Obviously, the Colts did go against the Vikings this past week, and the Vikings are one of the better defenses.
Yeah, very
football.
stout
So if you were
defense in
expecting him to
Minnesota.
go off
I definitely agree with that take.
Next up, we have right tackle Jonah Williams is coming off of IR as his 21-day practice window opens.
So we finally have some practice windows opening.
Another-
I know this isn't the only one. CMC's is opened as of this week. And so obviously, guys, make sure you have your fantasy stock in order.
Panthers coach Dave Canellis obviously said that Bryce Young will be the starter for Week 9, as he did enough Week 8 to allow himself another opportunity to start.
Well, that's good to hear for Bryce Young. Obviously, a very much a project quarterback at this point, but it's good to hear he's finally making some progress instead of regressing, as we've seen.
Yeah, I feel great for Bryce Young. You can tell post game, we'll get to what happened during that game, but you can tell he had a lot more. He was a little happier coming out of that game. He definitely seems to be a little bit more confident again, which is good. So there was an injury to Texans offensive tackle Morgan Moses, as he had missed Thursday night's game, which obviously was not helpful to what happened.
Yeah, no, very much not. The offensive line is not looking good for us right now. Obviously, we did make some moves during the trade deadline to try and beef that up a little bit.
The Jets are placing wide receiver Alan Lazard on injured reserve because of a chest injury. He is expected to miss at least 4 games.
All right, so guys, another player to IR. Not necessarily season ending, but obviously we are entering the later half of the season. So I honestly don't know if this is really going to hurt the Jets all that much. I mean, they're not that good to begin with.
That's very true. Alan Lazard was one of the few pieces that were occasionally working for the Jets, but obviously they did pick up Devontae Adams before that injury, so it should be fine. Kicker Riley Patterson is expected to be elevated from the practice squad. Obviously, he was active as the Jets kicker on Thursday night.
Well, that's good to hear. He's finally getting elevated from the practice squad. One, because the Jets need a kicker, I guess primarily. But yeah, I do agree. He was serviceable enough as a replacement kicker.
A few other things coming out of mainly the early window of last week. Puka Nacua did re-aggravate his knee that he had injured previously. However, he was able to play this past week, so it was not very serious.
Okay, that's always good. Puka Nacua, obviously a big piece of that Rams offense. Big receiver threat for Los Angeles.
Most definitely. Running back Tyron Tracy Jr. was able to get out of concussion protocol and was able to start for the Giants this past week.
Well, that's very good to hear. Players clearing concussion protocol and being able to come back into the game.
Obviously, more bad news on the Texans side of things. A starting guard, Kenyon Green, is expected to be out for the remainder of the season after a shoulder injury.
Yeah, no, he went down during the game with the Jets, and he looked very, very much in pain. Do we know what the injury is particularly?
All it says is it was a shoulder injury. I do know that on the play, Stroud was sacked into him when he was already on the ground and he landed on his shoulder. So I'm assuming it's some type of probably a tear of some kind, I would assume.
I would imagine, yeah.
Uh, Obviously, T.J. Hawkinson was officially back this week in the game against the Colts. I think we touched on that yesterday.
Yeah, we did. I think that would mean we're all caught up to date.
Wide receiver DK Metcalf had an MCL sprain and was ruled out this past Sunday.
Very much could probably ruin DK's season. I don't know if he'll be able to return in time because that's a more serious injury. It all depends on how badly he aggravated it.
The Browns have placed linebacker JOK on injured reserve. He is expected to be out the remainder of the year.
So it's not just the 4 weeks. He'll be done the remainder of the season. Obviously, a big blow to that defense.
Drake May did clear concussion protocol and was able to play this past week for the Patriots.
That's always good to hear. And I'm going to say this right now. Drake May is the only thing that makes the Patriots watchable.
Most definitely. If it wasn't for him, that there's no point in even turning the TV to whatever channel they're on at the time. In Chargers news, wide receiver DJ Chark was removed from injured reserve. So that's good for us.
Baby Chark.
CB Denzel Ward from the Browns is coming off a concussion and practiced on Friday. I believe he was able to play against the Chargers this past week. So he was able to, I believe, clear concussion protocol. Let's see here. Some other ones that don't matter as much here. Obviously, we did talk about this yesterday, but it was an official news story from this past week, not the week before. But obviously, Tyreek Stevenson was indeed not able to play due to his own choice this past week.
Yeah, we touched on that yesterday.
Let's see. Don't really care much about those things, I don't think. Obviously, we know that on the Commander side, they were missing Brian Robinson this past week. Amari Cooper was inactive for the Bills on Sunday as well. Trying to make sure. Okay, so on a very scary play, Chris Olave suffers a concussion after getting cracked on two sides by Panthers defenders.
Oh yeah, no, I remember seeing this play. Yeah, this was a nasty play. I'm not surprised he's in concussion treatment. Yeah, no, that was a very brutal play.
Important to note here, Chris Olave is a pretty young receiver still. This is, I think, going to be his fourth or fifth reported concussion already, so not great. Not great at all. Chris Olave was discharged from the hospital 2 days ago and did return to practice. I don't know if he actually played in practice, but he did return to the facility. So thank God it wasn't worse than we thought it would be.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Little bit of news out of the Bears facilities here. Caleb Williams had tweaked his ankle at the end of the Bears game this past week. He said, obviously, it's not his decision if he plays. And Eberflus says he limped off a little bit when he came in, but he looks fine. So we'll have to monitor how Caleb Williams looks when we watch the games this week.
Yes, we will. And the Bears have a very feisty Patriots team they're going up against with Drake May. So that'll definitely be probably one of the more interesting games to watch.
I do agree. Bears right tackle Darnell Wright, who was ruled out on Sunday with an injury, is believed to have suffered an MCL sprain. If this is true, he'll miss at minimum of 3 weeks. A Bears O-line that isn't that good gets worse.
Yep.
Titans lose their outstanding center, Lloyd Cushenberry, to an Achilles injury. Not a tear, but an injury. Not great considering the Titans are not that good of a team to begin
they
with.
are very much a struggling franchise right now.
On the front of coaches, the Saints have officially fired Dennis Allen from their team on Monday morning. We all, including Saints fans, wanted this. Saints fans wanted this for years now, to be honest with you. But they finally get it. Their coach is finally gone. I know how you feel, guys. I had to deal with Staley for 2 years, so I know what you're feeling. Damn, was I happy when he got fired. Fuck that guy. All right. Titans veteran safety Quandre Diggs has suffered a season-ending Lisfranc injury that will require surgery.
Not good news.
Another bad, especially considering they got the Chargers this week, who their receiving core is looking pretty good the last few weeks. So that losing that safety might not help them out very much. Drake London will have tests done. I'll see if there's a story up higher if there's any conclusion to this. But it is believed that he has suffered a hip pointer injury. And that's a big weapon for if the Falcons end up losing him, that's a big weapon to lose. Especially when you're kind of still trying to keep that division away from Tampa specifically.
Yeah, no, specifically Tampa, yeah.
Next up, we have the Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott did have a hamstring injury and is expected to miss reportedly several weeks. There's no time frame yet, but it's believed to be at least 3.
All right, so here's my question to you. Do you think the Cowboys win any of their upcoming games until Dak returns?
The only one I see them having a decent shot against would be the Giants. All the other ones, I think they get blown out.
Yeah, no, it's not looking good if you're a Cowboys fan.
Now we get into the start of the trades from yesterday. As the Broncos send over edge rusher Baron Browning over to the Cardinals for a 6th-round pick.
I think for the trades, we kind of just need to brush over them. Because we're already approaching the 20.
I do want to bring up real quick that I do believe that Baron Browning was a really good pass rusher for the Broncos, and the reason why they traded him away will be brought up in a little bit in one of the next couple of news stories I see. He's a solid pass rusher for a Cardinals team that is surprising everyone this year so far. Obviously, we already went over this, but McCaffrey's practice window did open on Monday, and he is expected to play against the Buccaneers.
Let's fucking go, baby. I knew holding on to him would finally pay off.
One reason the Broncos felt comfortable trading edge Baron Browning is over the weekend they signed outside linebacker Jonathan Cooper to a 4-year deal or $60 million with $33 million guaranteed.
Okay, yeah, now it definitely makes a lot more sense. They upgraded.
Now, though, obviously Baron Browning was very helpful to them. When you have a guy that's definitely outproducing him, I don't think they wanted to leave a talented player on the bench when they can get assets for him instead. So,
yeah, agreed.
Makes sense to me. Next up, we do have a flex that you and I spoke of yesterday. The Indianapolis Colts and New York Jets were flexed to the 1 p.m. time slot, while the Cincinnati Bengals at the Los Angeles Chargers will be the Sunday night football game for Week 11.
That should I actually kind of like the sound of that.
Joe Burrow versus Justin Herbert, round 2. Last time, for those of you that do not know, the Chargers absolutely whipped them. We'll see how it goes this time around in SoFi. The Eagles get good news as wide receiver A.J. Brown was able to dodge a serious injury to his knee and is still expected to play this coming week when they take on whoever they take on. We'll get to that later. So for once, somebody avoids a season-ending injury.
Well, that's good.
Next up, we have. Let's see here. Obviously, there's some Monday Night Football related stuff here that I need to swipe through real quick. The Browns are trading standout edge rusher Zadarius Smith to the Lions. It'll be Smith in a 2026 7th round, and Detroit will be sending over a 2025 5th and a 2026 6th round pick.
The rich get richer. Holy crap!
Pretty solid.
Yeah, solid moves for the Lions.
Pretty solid replacement for Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously, he won't bring entirely what Hutchinson brings, but he does already have 6 sacks this season, I think. So pretty damn good trade for the Lions. The Browns also getting a little bit of draft capital, though those probably won't mean much. But with their cap situation, it's a good thing for them either way. Next up, we have one of your former Bears players, which I do believe you still like him. The Bengals are trading for running back Khalil Herbert, sending them over to the Bengals from the Bears.
Yeah, and I actually just made the move to pick up Khalil Herbert off of waivers. So welcome to my fantasy team, Khalil Herbert. Hoping to see you produce here in Cincinnati.
And one of the stupidest trades I think we saw. Traded for Jonathan Mingo, a 4th round pick, by the way. I do not know what the hell was going through Jerry's mind with that one.
All in my ass. That's all I have to say.
For those, Jonathan Mingo, for those of you that do not know, has not caught a touchdown pass in his career yet. It's very short, but still no career touchdowns. And I think he doesn't have many receiving yards either. And keep in mind, this is after receivers like DeAndre Hopkins and Amari Cooper went for 5th and 6th rounders. So yeah, Jerry is all in on being mediocre, apparently. All right, next up, we have a surprising Raiders hire here, as the Raiders hire former Raiders head coach and former Chargers head coach Norv Turner out of wherever he was at, as well as his son Scott. I don't know the guy's last name. He will also be part of the staff as well. So yeah, Raiders hiring a new OC and a new O-line coach. Very good. Let me make sure I get to the one that actually has the compensation for this. Okay, here you go. We have the biggest trade, arguably, of yesterday, as the Saints trade away Marshawn Lattimore over to the Washington Commanders.
So the Commanders obviously needing a big piece to their secondary. Go and get Marshawn Lattimore. Great move for them.
The Saints get a 3rd, a 4th, and a 6th, which was part of a previous trade. The 6th was, as the Commanders get Marshawn Lattimore and a 5th rounder as well. I think that's a solid trade for both sides. Obviously, the Saints
I can
are
agree.
in cap hell.
I definitely agree. I think that's a win-win trade.
Yeah, cap hell for the Saints. They're not competing, so send Lattimore to someone who can maybe at least get him a playoff win before the year's done. Next up, we have Mike Williams being traded from the Jets to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a 2025 5th round pick.
Well, Mike Williams to the Steelers. I actually did not know about this one. Justin Fields will have some fucking nice help there once he takes over for Russ again.
Fifth rounder is pretty good. Obviously, I know a thing or two about how well Mike Williams plays when he's healthy. And I can definitely say a 5th round is not that much to give up for his services if he can go back to his days with when Herbert was throwing him the football, that is. instead of Aaron Rodgers, who didn't even look his way that much. All right, next up we have. Okay, that's more on Mingo. Oh, here you go. The Cowboys have released cornerback Andrew Booth. I believe he is a second or third year player. He's still young, so if a team needs cornerback depth, he is out there to assist them in that regard. The Vikings are. Oh, it refreshed. Hold on. The Vikings are signing free agent kicker John Parker Romo after Will Richard was placed on IR. So a new kicker there for the Minnesota Vikings. The Steelers are not done, however, as they do trade a 7th-round pick to the Packers for Preston Smith.
Preston Smith to the Steelers. The Steelers are actually making a lot of moves here at the trade deadline. Like, this is not normal here for Pittsburgh. This is.
Well, they know they got number 1 in their division right now, and I think they want to hold on to it, is what these moves tell me. Obviously, Preston has not done much for Green Bay this year. I believe he only has 3 sacks on the season and 10 total pressures. Now he heads to a Steelers team that has a couple of linebackers dealing with injuries, so he can just slide right in there situationally, I believe. And also it clears up a good chunk of cap space for the Packers, which is good for them to try to bring in some younger pieces. Another big trade, this time out of Baltimore, as the Ravens trade for Tre'Davious White from the Rams.
Well, Tre'Davious White finding a new home.
Obviously, Tre'Davious White, well known for his time with the Bills. He has not played much this season, and he is landing in a new home where he will be playing on the other side of Marlon Humphrey, for those of you that don't remember.
Big help for that Baltimore defense too. That defense has been struggling, so perhaps we can finally see that defense step their game up a little bit.
And a buzzer beater from the Texans. They trade backup defensive tackle Khalil Davis to the 49ers.
In exchange for?
I'll get to that here in just a second once I get up to where it should tell me what they got for him. Jordan Phillips has appeared to sign with the Buffalo Bills, as he was once a Buffalo Bill and does return home. So a little reunion there in Buffalo. Let's see. Where it tells me the... I don't know why it's not telling me. I think it was a 6th or 7th rounder, I believe is what you guys got for him. So nothing too big. But a backup DT, that shouldn't really go for much anyways. The Jaguars have signed C.J. Beathard to the 53-man roster and from the Dolphins practice squad. And have opened the window for wide receiver / returner Devin Duvernay to return as well. So pretty good little thing there. Let me see. All right. Last bit of news, at least for Ian Rappaport. I'll kick over to Adam Schefter, make sure I admit there's nothing important that is not on Ian's page yet. But Keon Coleman has an arm and wrist injury that could linger for more than a week. So Josh Allen could be missing one of his receivers this coming week. Let me check Adam Schefter real quick. Am I still in the call? Okay, I just wanted to make sure it got quiet. Giants have designated kicker Graham Gano to return to practice, so they get their starting kicker back after he missed, I think, since week 2 with injury.
Yeah, no, I remember him being out, yeah.
Obviously, I told you this yesterday, but the Texans will be wearing their battle red chrome helmets and their full red uniforms this coming week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I like those unis.
Yeah, those are sick unis. And Quentin Jefferson has signed a 1-year deal with the Bills, as the Bills now have brought in 2 new defensive tackles to assist their defense. It appears that Trevor Lawrence was actually banged up there in that game against the Eagles, so that might bring up concerns for if he will play this coming week. Which obviously that there's not really that much point in it, considering they're definitely not going anywhere.
No.
And veteran safety Mike Edwards is signing with the Tennessee Titans. So they get a new defensive player after losing one of theirs previously. Let me make sure there's nothing else here. Oh, the pick was a 2026 seventh round pick that you guys got from the Niners during that trade, by the way.
Okay, cool.
So nothing big, but it's a backup DT, so you don't expect much anyway.
Yeah, no.
And that does bring us to the end of the news segment.
All right, so guys, that was the news. Just things we want to bring to your attention. Make sure everyone's up to date. Make sure you guys have found out about anything you may have not known about. Guys, coming up next, we have the recap and predictions. And guys, recaps and predictions are actually sponsored this week by 2 independent crafters. They are making holiday wreaths based around your favorite football teams, whether you're a college football fan, NFL fan, whatever you may be. They're making holiday wreaths just in time for the holidays. They make great gifts. Thank you to Monica and her mother Dorothy for sponsoring this segment. And guys, you can find them on eBay. I think they go for about $25 a piece.
All right, here we go, starting as usual with Thursday Night Football. As the Jets pull off an upset of sorts against the Texans, 13-21.
Yeah, no, big upset for the Jets. I did see a lot of ref ball in this game. As I said yesterday, it was not a clean game in my opinion, one for the Jets, but obviously I will address our offensive line very, very much struggling, and I'm hoping to see them get back on track at some point. I did not like what I saw against the New York Jets at all.
Yeah, CJ Stroud took quite a beating that game, if I remember correctly. I believe he was even slow to get up a couple times, which is not something you would like to see as a fan base, obviously. Next up, for the spotlight player for the Texans, I can give it to 2 guys, which I'm going to give it to both of them. Joe Mixon had 106 yards and a touchdown that game. And Tank Dell, stepping in for his injured wide receiver core, does end up getting 126 yards as well. So the pretty solid outings by 2 of your offensive guys there.
Yeah, that was definitely nice to see.
I will give the receiving side of things for the Jets. I'll be giving it to Garrett Wilson, who had 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Sherwood got 7 tackles and 2 sacks. For those of you that were wondering just how bad the Texans' O-line was, they ended up allowing, it looks like, 7 sacks?
Yeah, no, it was not fun for CJ Stroud that night. Very much a Halloween nightmare for me and my fellow Houston fans.
Yeah, rough outing for them. Let's hope they can bounce back this week, though they do have a tougher opponent, and we'll be talking about that shortly. Now, next up, we have the upset of the week for sure. If anybody was thinking that the last game we talked about was, it's actually this one, as the Panthers get their second win of the season, beating the Saints 22-23.
Yeah, no, big upset. Big upset for them. It's back weeks
Now
where we've
keep
had
in mind
we've had big upset games now, Ken. I'm actually kind of liking how this is going.
I agree. The spotlight player for the Saints will be Alvin Kamara, who actually had 215 total yards. So he put the team on his back, but unfortunately it was not enough. You got to feel bad for Kamara, too. He just signed an extension.
Hashtag free Alvin.
Yeah, free Alvin for sure. On the Panthers side, Chuba Hubbard is the spotlight player here, who had 72 yards and 2 touchdowns. Bryce Young did have 171 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He is obviously still developing into a quarterback here, but so even though he's 50-50, like Jameis says, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks over the last few games, he's at least showing a little bit more of why he might have been drafted as high as he was.
Yeah, we're finally starting to see him make steps forward instead of backwards, which is nice.
Next up, we have the Washington Commanders beating the Giants 27-22.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of expected the Commanders to win this game more handily, but nonetheless, another big win for the Commanders team. As we established, they made some moves at the trade deadline to make their defense even more powerful, which they very much needed. But Jaden Daniels continues his tear through the NFL.
Yep, our spotlight here is actually going to go to former Charger Austin Eckler, who had 42 yards and a touchdown. I do believe you had him come into your fantasy team this week.
No, I did not. No, we considered
bench?
dropping him, actually. We considered.
All right, well, I'm going to give him the spotlight there. And as for the defense, we're actually going to give it to former Panther Jeremy Chin, who had 12 total tackles. Now, I will spotlight Daniel Jones for the Giants because he actually had 2 touchdowns, 174 yards, and no interceptions this game. So, yeah, Jones puts together a pretty good performance, all things considered. And by all things considered, I mean considering how he's been playing. That's a solid performance. All right, next up we have the Buffalo Bills beating the Miami Dolphins 30-27.
Yeah, pretty much a very handed game to the Bills. I'm sorry, as far as the AFC East goes, we could see them being one of the first teams to clinch their division, and that's because all 3 other teams in their division are absolutely awful.
Most definitely. The Jets win against the Texans withstanding. The Jets do not have very many easy games moving forward, at least on paper. And they will not have a team that's missing their top 2 weapons either, probably for most of the rest of the year. So I don't see the Jets making any type of bounce back here. For the spotlight players, I'm going to give it to Devon Achane for the Dolphins, as he had 120 total yards and 2 touchdowns. Basically, single-handedly carried the Dolphins' offense for the most part. And you know what? We haven't really talked about this man that much, so we're going to actually spotlight Josh Allen here, who has 235 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception this game. And that's kind of funny that we haven't brought up Josh Allen up to this point.
I agree.
Because he's obviously one of the better.
Maybe a future player spotlight.
Next up, we have my Chargers absolutely thumping the Browns 27-10. For those of you that were wondering, this game was never particularly close. The touchdown came late in the 4th when the game was already decided. The spotlighted player for this one is the Quentin Johnson, who had 118 yards and a touchdown, and J.K. Dobbins, who you and I both have in fantasy,
yes,
who had 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also, I want to give a shout out to the Chargers' entire defense, as they were able to sack Jameis Winston 6 times and intercept him 3 times as well. I'll bring up more about that when I get to my segment. But with the Browns, it's again, it's one of those times where it's hard to spotlight anybody because everyone was absolute dog shit. But we are going to talk about Tillman, who had 75 yards and a touchdown, and then Myles Garrett, who had 3 sacks that game. Obviously, like Myles Garrett, like we know he's going to throw together a few of those games.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans beating the Patriots 20-17 in overtime, and this was obviously a tank bowl.
Yeah, no, very much so. Let me get to the name.
I will say, again, I want to bring up Drake May real quick. He won't be our spotlight player, but it is worth mentioning he had that really wild touchdown that forced overtime. And I know you saw that. That was a fucking really good touchdown to throw. Not really anyone to spotlight other than Drake May himself, who had over 300 total yards. As for the Titans, Tony Pollard actually had a very nice game with 128 rushing yards. What did you think of that touchdown pass by Drake May, by the way?
Oh, I loved it. I think Drake May's doing a lot of wonderful things with very little help surrounding him. I think the Patriots may have found a quarterback for the future if they can build around him properly.
I definitely agree. We have another edition of Cowboys belt to ass as the Falcons absolutely annihilate them 27-21. Yes, this was annihilation. Don't let the score fool you. They were absolutely fucked all game.
Yeah, no, the Cowboys continue their horrendous losing streak. Obviously, losing Dak Prescott in the process, not a good look for the Dallas fans. As I said yesterday, man, here we go again. This team ain't gonna ever win.
In terms of spotlight players, this is another one where they were so thoroughly beaten. I don't know who to spotlight on the Cowboys side. I'll give it to Jake Ferguson, though. He had 71 yards on 7 receptions. And I'll give Carl Lawson, who had 2 sacks, the spotlight there for the Cowboys. For the Falcons, we're going to give the spotlight to one of your former players, and Darnell Mooney, who had 88 yards and a touchdown. He's one of those players we both definitely support a little bit here on the show.
Yes.
Next up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, a.k.a. the Las Vegas Crackheads, a.k.a. your team is dog shit here in Las Vegas, getting victimized by the Bengals 41-24.
Yeah, no, not a good outing for the Raiders at all. Cincinnati finally, with a little bit of a bounce back game, finally beating up on one of their scrub teams that they're supposed to, and with a scoreboard that is very much showing of it as well.
Definitely agree. I believe the Bengals have 2 tough matchups with the Ravens tomorrow and the Chargers in Week 11, obviously on Sunday Night Football. Now we have the spotlight players for this game. Jacoby Myers, who had 105 yards. And surprisingly enough, one of the reasons why the Bengals were able to victimize the Raiders so much is they were actually able to keep the menace known as Max Crosby completely away from Burrow this entire game. And you know what? Speaking of Joe Burrow, we're going to go ahead and give him the spotlight here, as he had 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, 251 yards.
Joe go Burr!
For those that do not know, this is Joe Burrow's second 5-touchdown game. His previous one was against the Ravens. Also, we want to spotlight Mike Gesicki, who had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Give a little bit of beloved of the tight end there. Next up, we have the Ravens destroying the Broncos 41-10.
Yeah, no, not a good outing for the Broncos. Very much getting their asses handed to them by a very pissed off Ravens team that are looking for revenge after their loss to Cleveland.
Most definitely. I will say Bo Nix did have that really cool touchdown grab that he had early in the game, but other than that, nothing really worked well for the Broncos this past week. Cortland Sutton did have 122 yards receiving as well. And John Franklin Myers did sack Lamar Jackson as well, so that's a pretty good day, I would say. For the Ravens, spotlight players are Zay Flowers, who had 127 yards and 2 touchdowns, as well as Robinson, who had 2 sacks on Bo Nix. All right, next up, we got the Chicago Bears losing to the Cardinals 29-9.
Yeah, obviously a very much must-win game for the Chicago Bears, and they were not able to pull away with it. Kyler continues to look very much like a different quarterback, in my opinion, from what we've previously seen from him. At least in these last couple of weeks, I've liked what I've seen from Kyler Murray. But the Bears, their struggles continue. This team has not looked good since their bye, and their struggles are just piling up. And like I said yesterday, the fact that Matt Eberflus is 0-18 on the road on Sundays, 0-18 under any circumstance, is grounds for firing. And the fact that he still has a job is beyond me.
Most definitely agree. We're going to give it to Roma Dunze as a spotlight, as he had 104 of Caleb's 217 yards, so he had half of his yardage by himself. Obviously, Roma Dunze, the young player they drafted in the first round alongside Caleb. And it looks like Stevenson did actually play probably closer to the end of the game because he does have 7 tackles, but he did lead the team in tackles, so I don't exactly know what happened there. By the way, real quick, I want to cover this. I don't want to use part of my segment for this. DJ Moore deserves to walk off the field when his quarterback's a fucking idiot that won't throw him the ball.
I agree.
Just saying. And obviously the Cardinals actually victimized them on the ground, as they had 3 total touchdowns as a rushing unit, with James Conner leading it with 107 yards. Zaven Collins also had 2 sacks. That's their defensive standout there. But yeah, they knew that the Bears, running-wise, were not the best defense at the moment, and they obviously took advantage of that. Next up, we have the Jaguars losing to the Eagles 28-23. This officially, if there was any hope, marks the end of the Jaguars season for sure now.
Oh yeah, definitely. The Jaguars are done. They are absolutely horrendous.
Josh Hines Allen does get 2 sacks, so that's the only guy I'm really going to bother spotlighting there. And Saquon Barkley absolutely annihilates this defense, going for 199 total yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 very memorable hurdle.
Yes, the backwards hurdle. Oh man, what a play! What a play!
Zach Bond had 10 total tackles and an interception on Trevor Lawrence. All right, we will move on to the next game here, as the Rams defeat the Seahawks 26-20 in overtime.
Yeah, another overtime thriller. But the Rams obviously able to pull away with it.
And don't look now, guys, but the Rams are all of a sudden 4-4 and right into the thick of their division race now.
Yeah, for real. You're speaking facts right now. Ever since Puka and Cup came back, oh man, that team looks different.
Cooper Kupp had 104 total yards this game, but it was Demarcus Robinson who had 94 yards and 2 touchdowns, including the game-sealing one for the Rams. And for those that may have missed it, Geno Smith did throw a 100-plus yard pick six, which did not help matters at all. On the Seahawks side, we're going to actually give not only the spotlight here on this team, but also a breakout game by Jackson Smith and Jigba, who had 180 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Seahawks. That's a great stat line for anybody, but that's a breakout stat line for a guy like him who hasn't really done much at the NFL level. Obviously, DK Metcalf being out definitely helped him be able to do that. We had the clash for the NFC North crown early on in the season, that is. And obviously the Lions came out on top 24-14 against the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, very much a tightly contested game all the way to the fourth quarter where the Lions really kind of opened up a can of whoop ass. But nonetheless, the Lions continuing their tear, making a point, and that point being that the NFC goes through them. Not just the NFC North, the NFC as a conference. The Detroit Lions look absolutely unbeatable right now.
And if I'm going to say something that might get a little bit of hate here, if I'm the Chiefs, I would be terrified of this team if I had to deal with them in the Super Bowl. Especially with how they've been playing and how the Chiefs have been playing, I would not want to play the Lions if I was the Chiefs. Spotlight player-wise, we're going to give one of them to... We're going to give one of them to David Montgomery, who we spotlighted a few weeks ago, who had 96 total yards on the day. And our spotlight player for this week, who's Kirby Joseph, who intercepted Jordan Love, showing that he can intercept any Packers quarterback. And for those of you that don't remember, one of Aaron Rodgers' last games was against the Lions, and Kirby Joseph was his nightmare that game. Jordan Reed gets the honors here for the Packers, who had 113 total yards. Rashawn Gary had half a sack, so I guess I'll give him the defensive side there. Now we go to Sunday Night Football, where the Colts lose to the Vikings 21-13.
Yeah, no, the Vikings obviously very much getting a win that they need in order to stay competitive in the very competitive NFC North.
Now I'll give the offensive player here to honestly nobody. Nobody really played that well for the Colts. I will give it both to Nick Cross and Zaire Franklin, who both had an interception and both had 10 and 8 tackles, respectively. Vikings, I'm not going to be boring and spotlight Justin Jefferson this time because that's to be expected at this point. I will, however, decide to give the honors to Oliver, who had 58 yards and a touchdown, and Byron Murphy Jr., who had an interception. That brings us to Monday Night Football, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lose to the Chiefs in overtime 24-30.
And you could just see it on Baker's face after that coin flip. He knew he lost the game. That's all I really got to say on that matter.
Yeah, definitely not great. Cade Otton had 77 yards and a touchdown for the Bucs. And Vita Vea had 2 sacks, but another one where it was obvious the second that, as you said, the second the coin flip was lost by the Bucs, Baker knew it. I don't even think he was going to be ready to step on the field again. I'm pretty sure he started packing his shit already. But I will also say Baker, without his top 2 weapons, had 200 yards and 2 touchdowns that game. Very hard to do when you don't have your top guys.
Yeah, no, and he stayed competitive with one of the top teams in football.
All right, for the Chiefs, we're going to give it to their new acquisition, DeAndre Hopkins, who had 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. I blame you, Titans, you stupid bitch. Why would you give them more shit? They don't need more shit. Not really going to mention anybody on Chiefs defense at this point, to be honest, because I don't see anyone that impressive. And that will do it for week 9.
All right. Now on to the predictions.
Yep, on to the prediction side of it here. Waiting for this to load. Here we go. We have the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Baltimore Ravens tomorrow in Baltimore.
I am going to go Ravens in this one. I just think they're the better team than Cincinnati right now. Obviously, Cincinnati with a very much good win last week, but I think the Ravens are just the better team.
All right, that's fair enough. I'm gonna say Baltimore too. As much as I want to go with Cincy due to how great they've been playing, we don't know if Khalil Herbert will play Thursday. I think he will, but we don't know how much he will actually play. So with that being said, they will be down to basically their second string running back having to be their first string. Baltimore, and both of them are coming off really impressive wins. I do see this being a shootout, though. Just like the first meeting was, but I do believe Baltimore does sweep the Bengals here. Next up, we have the Germany Tank Bowl.
All right.
And this will be between the Giants and the Panthers.
With
Obviously,
MGK at halftime. It might be the worst thing we've done to Germany since the Treaty of Versailles.
It might just be. But with that being said, I have no idea which direction to go here. Carolina's coming off a, pretty good win. Well, good win, I suppose, for them. Giants coming off a pretty good performance themselves and keeping up with the leader of their division pretty well, in my opinion. So,
I'm trying to think. Who's the worst team?
Bryce Young's having a little more confidence nowadays. The Giants' run game is better. The Carolina defense isn't that great, but neither is the Giants. Well, the Giants' defense is actually pretty good.
I'm going to go New York off the back of their defense.
I believe the same, too. I think they're going to run it. They're going to run it a bunch on offense and try to just smother the Panthers into submission. Next up, we have the New England Patriots traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears.
Do we also call this a tank bowl? Because, man, both these teams are struggling.
No, just because I want to hear the sound again. Go ahead. So, both of these defenses are pretty good. It's which offense do you trust better?
Honestly,
I believe
as far as offense goes, I trust. I hate saying this, but I feel like I trust New England's offense more. I'm going Patriots. The Bears have not looked good since their bye week, and I don't know that their struggles are coming to an end here. Like, had they won last week, I would probably have gone Chicago, but I'm sorry. After the loss to Arizona, I just can't.
I do believe New England will win, too. It's pretty sad if you're a Chicago fan, but I trust the number 3 overall pick and not the number 1 overall pick in this situation. Drake May, I honestly think Drake May has shown more than Caleb has in his limited time, to be honest. Next up, we have Buffalo traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Like,
I
is
mean,
there really any debate for this one?
not really. Buffalo's gonna come in and lay smackdown.
And continue to basically steamroll their way to a division title. So yeah, I believe we're both going Buffalo here.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars.
Vikings. I mean, the Jaguars are abysmal. Vikings all day.
Vikings, especially because we don't know if Trevor is going to play. CJ Beathard doesn't exactly inspire confidence, so I'm going to say Minnesota wins and continues to try to keep pace with the Lions in the NFC North. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos traveling to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs.
Chiefs.
As much as I hate to say it, Chiefs as well. I think Denver's defense is going to keep Mahomes in check for part of the game, but I think the Denver offense is just not going to be able to go score for score with them, and that's the only way you beat the Chiefs is if you shoot out with them.
Exactly.
Next up, we have Atlanta traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. I don't think we have to think too much about this one.
Yeah, no, Atlanta all day. I think Atlanta's just going to come in and absolutely kick some ass.
Atlanta is going to put belt to ass to the Saints worse than they put belt to ass to the Cowboys the previous week. Next up, we have the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers.
You know what? I'm going to call this my upset of the week. I think Tampa beats San Francisco.
I can agree with that. I just don't know. San Fran's been up and down all year from the looks of it. They haven't looked impressive defensively. Offensively, they haven't looked great, but they've had injuries basically all season coming in and out of that lineup. So, but with that being said, Baker's been playing really well without his top targets, and Baker has his swagger, and I think he's going to be able to come in to he's going to be able to host San Fran and take them to the woodshed and just take them out here. Tampa definitely gets the win here. And obviously, everyone in the NFC South is going to have to try to hope that Atlanta slips up at some point, but obviously that won't happen this week. We have a surprising game that if we talked about this just 3 months ago, we'd call us crazy if we said this. But the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Washington to take on the Commanders. This is a very much a prove-it game for both sides, in my opinion. Well, what do you think of this Pittsburgh-Washington game?
Trying to think here.
Washington. Remember, guys, Washington did get Marshawn Lattimore this past.
That is a good
yesterday.
point. That is a good point, and I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go Washington in this one.
I think in this matchup of 7-2, let's be honest, surprising juggernauts in their respective conferences. Both of these teams haven't really beaten anybody that impressive, but I do trust Jaden Daniels over Russell Wilson, so I'm going to say Washington gets this win and continues to stay one game ahead of the Eagles. Next up, we have Tennessee traveling to LA to take on the Chargers.
I'm going Chargers.
Obviously, I'm going Chargers quite easily. Tennessee looked really good against a Patriots team with not a lot of weapons on it. The Chargers, remember at the beginning of the year, people thought they didn't have any weapons. I think even you said they didn't have weapons, and now I get to say, ha, yes, they do. Fuck all y'all. Chiefs are beating the Titans at home. Next up, we have the Jets traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals.
After last week and the things I've seen out of Arizona, I think that Arizona's gonna get an upset here. I think I'm going Arizona over Jets.
I believe so too. Obviously, Jets are used to colder weather. They are going to go to a place that might have cold weather, but it also might be humid there. And again, this Arizona team's been playing really well. The Jets defense is not great against the run, and as we saw last week, Arizona can run the football. So I'm going to say Arizona takes this one at home. Next, we have Philadelphia at Dallas. I mean, belt to ass.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just
Like-
gonna be Philadelphia all day.
It's going to be Philadelphia pistol whipping Dallas all around the stadium. Saquon's going to do what he loves to do, and that's make the Cowboys look like dog shit. And Philadelphia is going to whoop them by at least 3 scores if I were to guess. I don't even think it's remotely going to be close. And I believe this is going to be the game of the week and potentially game of the year candidate, depending on how this goes. As we have Detroit traveling to Houston to take on your Texans with a returning Nico Collins.
I think Detroit. I hate to going against my boys, as you know, but I think Detroit just continues their tear. I don't think that we have the necessary strength to beat them right now. And I'm going to go Detroit beats Houston.
I think CJ Stroud and Nico Collins do put on a nice show. Unfortunately, as you say, at this point you can't outgun Detroit. You just have to hope you can hold them down, and your team, I don't think, can do that. So I will also go with Detroit. Next up, we have Monday Night Football, where the Miami Dolphins travel to LA to take on the Rams.
I'm going Rams. I think that they're just a better team than Miami, despite the fact that Tua was back and they were competitive last week. I think I'm going Rams. They look like a different team ever since Kupp and Puka have come back.
I think Rams win too. I don't think this Dolphins defense can stop Kupp and Puka at the same time. This Rams team also has a pretty good running game as well. And obviously, you can never doubt the clutchness of Matt Stafford, but you can of Tua. So I'm going to say the Rams win this one as well. And that wraps it up for Week 10's predictions.
So there you guys have it. There's our predictions for Week 10. That means we're finally all caught up as far as things go in the NFL. We're back on track after our bye week, Ken. Feels good. Moving on from there, guys, we have the 30-second timeout, which is a little segment that Kenny wanted to do this week. Just a few things we wanted to bring to your attention. So, guys, welcome to the 30-second timeout.
What the hell's going on out here?
Okay, so this will be 3 separate things, all of which won't take very long. We did this at the quarterly review where we looked at standings and such. We're going to do that again. On the AFC side of things, we have the Buffalo Bills at 7-2, the Jets at 3-6, Dolphins at 2-6, and Patriots at 2-7. Obviously, that is the Bills' division to lose at this point, and I don't think they will.
Yeah, no, neither do I.
Next up, we have the AFC West, which obviously has the Kansas City referees. Chiefs at 8-0. The Chargers at 5-3, Broncos at 5-4, and the Raiders at 2-7. Much
Again,
like
Kansas City's division to lose, but I would love to see them lose it.
And honestly, I'm going to say this now. I think the Chargers have a chance of taking out the Chiefs later in the year. That might just be me, though, but we played them tough the first meeting, and I think we can do it again. Next up, we have the AFC North: 6-2 Steelers, 6-3 Ravens, 4-5 Bengals, and 2-7 Browns. This division has all of a sudden turned into basically a 3-team race right now, as I do believe the Bengals have gotten back into it.
Yeah, no, but obviously the Steelers looking like an absolute juggernaut right now.
Next up, we have the AFC South, which sees the Texans at 6-3, the Colts at 4-5, the Titans and Jaguars at 2-6 and 2-7. Reminder: the Texans did sweep the Colts, so the Colts are technically 3 games behind the Texans right now.
Yeah, obviously, I feel pretty comfortable with our division lead right now. Hoping that we can hold on to it and probably just clinch the division. If we could clinch the AFC, that'd be great. But I don't think that's gonna happen. I think the first round bye is just gonna go to Kansas City.
I do agree with that as well. On the NFC side of things, we obviously spoke about this earlier. The Commanders at 7-2, Eagles at 6-2, Cowboys at 3-5, and Giants at 2-7. And I think it's going to be a dogfight between those top 2 teams to decide who takes this division this year. Next up, we have the NFC West, which sees 5-4 Cardinals, 4-4 Rams and Niners, and the 4-5 Seahawks. This division looks like the NFC East of old.
It very much does. Tank division.
Next up, we have what was seemingly the most competitive division in football, and still is, but with one team dropping out of it a little bit here. Lions at 7-1, Vikings at 6-2, Packers at 6-3, and Bears at 4-4. Again,
yeah,
much
obviously
like the
Chicago
other two
beginning
AFC
to fall
teams,
out of favor in the NFC North. Whereas the Lions look like the team to beat in not just the North, but the conference.
Yep, the Lions, again, it's going to be their division to lose, and we talk about the rest of their schedule, and I do not see a single loss in any of those. Next up, we have the NFC South to finish up with this portion of the 30-second timeout. It's going to be a little bit longer, guys, but it's still not going to be that long. The Falcons are 6-3, the Bucks are 4-5, and Panthers and Saints are 2-7. Obviously, again, this is the Falcons' division to lose right now.
Also, let's not forget that the Falcons have swept the Bucks.
Yeah, they have swept the Bucks, so it's technically a 3 or however many game hole right now that the Bucks find themselves in currently. I would love to see them crawl out of it, but I just don't think they will. All right, next up, we're going to look at the stat leaders. We once again did this 4 weeks ago, and I just felt like it was appropriate at the midway point to do it again. The leaders in passing, we see Geno Smith holding on to it still at 2,560 yards. Baker has 2,389 yards. Lamar Jackson, 2,379 yards. Kirk Cousins with 23-28. And Joe Burrow at 22-44. So much for the Lamar can't throw allegations, apparently. Next up, we have rushing totals, which sees Derrick Henry proving why his nickname is King Henry, as he leads the league with 1052. Saquon has 925. Josh Jacobs has 762. Jordan Mason, who's probably going to fall off of here pretty soon, at 685, and Chuba Hubbard at 665. But props to Jordan Mason, who kept most of our fantasy teams alive while Christian McCaffrey was out.
Hell yeah.
For receiving, we see Justin Jefferson leading the league with 783, Jamar Chase with 717, Garrett Wilson with 663, CeeDee Lamb with 660, and Zay Flowers with 654. Obviously, no surprise that Justin Jefferson is leading the league in receiving right now. Defensive-wise, tackle leaders, we actually still see 2 Colts in the top 5. Zaire Franklin has 95, Budda Baker has 91, Logan Wilson with 88, Robert Spillane with 86, and Nick Cross with 86 as well. Next up, we move to the sack numbers, where TJ Hawkinson leads the league with 11 after a 4 sack performance this past week. Stexy Dexy, as they call him from the Giants, has 9. McDonald from the Jets has 8. Hutchinson and Will Anderson Jr. both have 7.5. I want to remind you guys that Aiden Hutchinson has not played in like 2 or 3 weeks now. He's still number 4. All right, finally we have interception leaders. We see Xavier McKinney and Kirby Joseph each having 6. We have Marlon Humphrey, McCullough, and Brian Branch all having 4, making up the leaderboards. I also want to bring up this real quick before we go to the final part where we talk about who's in the playoffs as of now and what the matchups look like. But for receiving yardage, for those that don't remember, we obviously saw Nico Collins at the top of that list before his injury. He only slipped down to number 14, by the way. He has a chance to probably make up ground when he comes back. Obviously, he is still CJ Stroud's top target, so I will definitely expect to see him potentially climb back up into that top 5 sooner rather than later. Next up, we have the final portion. Again, this 30-second timeout's a little bit longer than it normally is, but it is also for good reason. Let me just get the picture up that has the current playoff standings, if it were to end today. This one? Okay, this one I think was from the 29th, so I think there's one that's a newer thing here. Oh, actually, that might have been it. Sorry. 1 second, guys. I'm going to roll with this one. Okay, so I do believe that it might have changed from this one, but we're just going to use this one for now. Oh, wait, never mind. That's from a while ago. Okay, so I think the playoff picture... I know, obviously, we know who the 1 seeds are in each conference, so we don't have to wait for that. That would obviously be Kansas City and the Lions currently. And I honestly, unless both of them drop off tremendously, I think you and I can both agree that there is no way either of them drop out of those 2 spots.
Agreed.
Okay, for the wild card round right now, we'd see the Broncos playing the Bills, which would be interesting. We would see the Chargers taking on the Steelers again, and then we'd see the Ravens taking on Houston. For those of you that need to clarify, the Bills are 2nd, the Steelers are 3rd, the Texans are 4th, the Ravens are 5, the Chargers are 6, and the Broncos are 7. In terms of the NFC side, the 2nd seed Washington Commanders would host the 7th seed Green Bay Packers. The Falcons, number 3 seed, would host the number 6 seed Eagles. And then the Cardinals would host the Vikings, who are 4th and 5th seed, respectively. And that does it for the 30-second timeout.
All right, guys. Moving on from the 30-second timeout, guys. Just an update on Journey to Immortality. Not a full update, but guys, we did agree today or last night. I kind of a mixture of both, but we did agree that since we are done with our God runs, we can probably just do realism ones. I have already started mine on college football with adjusted sliders for realism. 3-star contributors this time instead of 4-star blue chips, but let's just say it's been very much a struggle for me to start the season as the starting quarterback at Kennesaw State University. So yeah, just an update for you guys as far as the gameplay is going to be slightly changing. Moving on from there, guys, we have the fantasy football roundup. And Kenny, I believe both of us were able to pull out with a win this week. So who did you want to go first?
I suppose I can go first this time. Neither one of us lost, so I might as well go first this time. All right, so for my side of the ball here, I had Jordan Love, who had 10.92. He had Josh Allen, who had 22.1. Reminder, Jordan Love was not great against the Lions, unlike last week when he was just injured. I had Joe Mixon, who had 16.8. He had Alexander Madison, who had 3.6. I had Jonathan Taylor, who did not play well against the Vikings, 8.9. He had Kenneth Walker at 13.7. I had Cooper Kupp, who had 21.4. He had Tyreek Hill, who had 12. I had Justin Jefferson, who had 21.58. He had Chris Olave. We know what happened to him. I hope he heals up quickly, but he had 2.3. I had Trey McBride, who gave me 12.7. He had Tyler Kraft from the Green Bay Packers, who had 7.6. I had Terry McLaurin, who had 15.9. He had Aaron Jones, who had 12.2. I had Brandon Aubrey, who had 9. He had Chase McLaughlin, who had 6. I had the Vikings defense, who had 11. He had the Bengals defense, who had 10. Overall, I remain with only one loss at 8-1 after putting more belt to ass 128 to 89.5.
That brings us to me, guys. And, guys, it was not looking good for me to start off this week. But with a 1% chance of staying alive come the Monday night game, my team fully exploited all 1% of that chance as we were able to come back for a victory. And not only that, we were the third highest scoring team in the league, guys. At quarterback, we went with CJ Stroud, who had 13.54. Again, CJ Stroud with a struggling game against the New York Jets. I've left Baker on the bench again. My mistake. I'm considering putting in Baker for this week, considering that Stroud has a very tough matchup against Detroit. As far as my opponent goes, he had Jaden Daniels, who had 23.86. Jaden Daniels very much outperforming my quarterback this week. Moving on to the running backs, I started J.K. Dobbins, and the man is an absolute workhorse who turned in 24.5 points for me. My opponent had Rico Dowdle with 21.7, so very much a tightly contested game between those first running backs. Second running backs, I had David Montgomery, who had 12.6. My opponent had Raheem Mostert with 10.8. Again, a very closely knit contest between all four of the running backs, as a matter of fact. That brings us to the wide receivers. I had DJ Moore with 7.3. DJ Moore not looking good these last couple of weeks. Very much struggling to find the ball. Caleb Williams, or I should say Caleb Williams is struggling to find DJ Moore on the field, rather. It hasn't been good. Whereas my opponent had Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had 18.6. Again, that man is an absolute beast. Second wide receiver, I had Josh Downs this week, who turned in 12, against Tyreek Hill, who turned in 12. Both of our receivers dropping 12s there, flats. The third wide receiver is really where I started to pull ahead. My opponent had AJ Brown, who had 5.6, but not a very productive day for AJ Brown. But I had DeAndre Hopkins, who for his first time with the Chiefs, looked very good. He had 28.6 points. Moving on to the tight ends, Travis Kelce had 26 points. My opponent had Evan Ingram, who had 11.5. As you can see, that third wide receiver and the tight end is really where we start to take off. The flex was not very good for me this week. Romeo Doubs had only 6.8. My opponent had Cooper Kupp flexed, who had 23.4. Romeo Doubs has since been dropped for Khalil Herbert. The kicker, my kicker was Tyler Bass, who had 13. My opponent had Brandon Aubrey, who had 9. And then the defenses, I had the Ravens defense, who had 11. And my opponent had the Chiefs defense, who only turned in 4 and have since been dropped. So, guys, that is the end of the fantasy football roundup. That's how it looks for both of us. Again, my team able to win 155.34 to 140.46. Moving on to this week, finally getting Cooper Kupp back. or not Cooper Cup, Christian McCaffrey and Nico Collins back is going to be huge for me. So my team at full strength for the first time this season. So I think it's time for me to start laying some belt to ass, even though my record shows me as 6-3. As far as standings go, I believe I am actually first place in my division. Yes, back in first place in my division at 6-3. And second place in the league behind my brother, who is 7-2. All right, guys, moving on from there, we go to Ref Ball of the Week. And man, oh man, we hate doing this segment, but again, we have to do it. We have to do it because we had some horrendous ref ball again. So, guys, welcome to Ref Ball of the Week.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, I do want to remind everybody that it wasn't the Chiefs the last 2 weeks, but they do make a return to ref ball here, as there was an obvious false start on I believe it was the tackle for the Chiefs, who was a whole 1.5 yards off the line of scrimmage before the ball was even snapped. Somehow the refs, being blind as fuck, didn't see that. Oh, wait, the refs are being paid off by the Chiefs. Of course they missed it. That, I believe, would have set them back 10 yards, if not farther, and probably could have given the Buccaneers the win had that been called. Obviously, much like last week, we don't want to say they definitely lost them the game with that call, but there's a strong indication that that might have lost them the game based on how the end result was. I believe there's a fair enough take there.
Yeah, no, just another horrendous call by the Chiefs, who obviously work for. I mean the refs, not the Chiefs. Sorry, but it's all the same, guys. It's all the same. It's all the same, guys. Moving on from Ref Ball of the Week, though, guys, we're going into the player spotlight, and guys, we don't usually highlight some defensive players, but this week we felt the need. Hey, let's highlight some defensive players, shall we? So, guys, this week we are highlighting a defensive player. Welcome to Player Spotlight.
Okay, obviously, this is the second defensive player we're going to be talking about here. The first was a safety. This one is also a safety in Kirby Joseph. For those of you that do not remember, I made the comment about him picking off Rodgers in his last game in Green Bay. He also picked off Jordan Love, so we figured why not give this defensive player a little bit of a spotlight here. His real name is actually Kirby Joseph, unlike most other players who have a different first name or use their middle and last name. That is his full name. It is just Kirby Joseph. Kirby Joseph is 6'1", 203 pounds. He did go to Illinois as his college. That means he's pretty local to you, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, no, Champaign was about 3 hours away.
And then in the NFL draft, he was drafted at kind of a steal in the third round at pick 97. That's a steal for a corner or a safety that's been playing as well as he has. Early life, Joseph grew up in Orlando, Florida, and attended Jones High School as a senior. He had 4 interceptions and 7 tackles for loss at cornerback, and also caught 5 touchdown receptions as a wide receiver. Joseph was rated a 3-star recruit and committed to play in college football at Illinois over offers from Mississippi State, Syracuse, South Florida, and Florida Atlantic. He is of Haitian descent. I don't know what the hell that is, but okay. College career-wise, he played mostly as a reserve defensive back and on special teams. In his 2 seasons at Illinois, he was named a starter going into his junior year and recorded 19 tackles in the COVID-19 shortened 2020 season. Joseph was named first team All Big Ten Conference in 2021 after finishing the season with 57 tackles, 1 sack, 3 fumble recoveries, while also intercepting 5 passes. After the end of the season, Joseph declared that he would be entering the 2022 draft. Obviously, he was drafted by the Lions. Joseph was invited to play in the 2022 Senior Bowl as well to conclude his career there in college. Kirby Joseph, we're just going to go down here to his NFL-related stuff. In Week 9 against the Green Bay Packers, Joseph had 10 tackles and intercepted quarterback Aaron Rodgers twice in a 15-9 win, earning him national, or obviously NFC, Defensive Player of the Week as a result of his performance. Joseph was the first Lion rookie to win the award in franchise history. Let me say that one more time for the people in the back. First Lions rookie to win the award in franchise history. That is quite impressive, considering how long the Lions have been around for, that is. Joseph won the Pro Bowl fan vote for NFC safeties as a rookie, but he was ultimately not selected to the game due to the NFL's recent change in rules, where the fan vote only constituted 1/3 of the new selection process. I'm going to call bullshit on that, by the way. In Week 18, Joseph became the first player in NFL history to intercept Rodgers 3 times in a season. As the Lions knocked the Packers out of playoff contention, Joseph's interception was Rodgers' last throw as a Packer, and he would be traded to New York Jets the following offseason. So I do believe Kirby Joseph has like 5 or 6 interceptions on Aaron Rodgers. Joseph was named first team All-Rookie by a number of publications, including The Atlantic. And in November 3rd of 2024, Joseph recorded his first career pick 6 on a ball thrown by Jordan Love on the Packers, obviously. That happened just this past Sunday. As for his stats so far in his career, he has 207 total tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, 27 pass deflections, 14 interceptions, and 1 defensive touchdown. And that actually wraps up Kirby Joseph, as there is no personal life related matters on his page.
All right, guys. So out of the player spotlight, guys, we're getting to the closing segments of the show, as we always do. And guys, we always go over some personal segments to close out the show before we get to the main one. But guys, welcome to Kenny's personal segment. Welcome to Charged Up.
All right, guys. So this is going to be a fun segment, and then I might turn it into a little bit of a different segment at the end. In fact, I probably will. But first thing I want to talk about is this Chargers defense. For those of you that do not follow the Chargers that well, the Chargers defense is actually ranked number 1 in scoring defense out of all 32 teams this season. For most of you that don't know this, they were ranked 23rd, 29th, and 24th from 2020 to 2023, respectively. They are obviously now ranked first in scoring defense, as well as first in points allowed, which they were in the low or high or mid 20s in that regard just a season ago as well. This defense has obviously been much better under Jesse Minter, who Harbaugh brought in specifically to fix this defense. In fact, Nick, let me know if you knew this. The Chargers are the only team in the league right now that has allowed 20 points or less through the season so far.
No, I didn't know that.
The only team that they allowed to hit 20 points, I believe, was the Pittsburgh Steelers. Everyone else scored less than 20 or might have scored 20 as well, but I'm pretty sure most of them are below 20. In fact, the points per game allowed by the Chargers this year is 13. The closest one to them, I can't remember who it is, but they're at 14 point something, which I think that's Pittsburgh. So obviously, Chargers having an elite defense. And I told you guys this coming into it. I think the defense getting it on top of things, having a run game and all that would help this team immensely. They are obviously 5-3, so they obviously have a good chance at keeping that pace. They don't have a shit ton of really hard opponents moving forward either. So I do believe that the next couple weeks they're going to be able to help their stats a little bit on the offensive side of the ball and continue to hold opponents below that point. For those, obviously, we know how good J.K. Dobbins has been since coming over to the Chargers, as he has been what's kind of helped this offense be able to spring the pass a little bit more once they got it more established. Herbert's actually been the top quarterback the last few weeks. In some regards, he has been. Obviously, not all of it has been statistical, but he has been playing as one of the better quarterbacks over the past few weeks. In fact, quarterback Justin Herbert ranks second all time for 100-plus passer rating games with touchdown passes in a player's first 5 seasons. The only quarterback that has more than him is none other than Patrick Mahomes. Again, that's a stat I didn't even know until this morning. And I doubt my co-host here knew that either.
No, not at all.
Justin Herbert has also only thrown one interception all season. He's the only starter from week 1 that has only thrown one interception. I talked to you about this off cam and a little bit yesterday. I do not think that we can say Patrick Mahomes is in the running for MVP if we can't say the same about Justin Herbert at this point. Let me see here. Okay, I wanted to make sure I got those stats out while I was talking. Now, in terms of some other things I want to talk about, this wide receiver core, again, has been getting a lot better. Last week it was Ladd. Week 9 it was Quentin Johnston. We're playing a Titans team that's defense has fallen off a lot since the first couple weeks. I think this is a good chance for Herbert to get another really high passing yards type of day, and maybe even get a couple of touchdowns against a defense that has now lost a piece or two on that defense to injury. The Chargers trade deadline, they did nothing. Now, some Charger fans might not like that, but I am actually okay with this. Mainly because I feel like Harbaugh wanted to give the team a chance in terms of the players on it to earn their spot, and maybe he felt like adding another person to that would make some people's confidence in that same room maybe diminish, and maybe he didn't want that. I also believe that maybe they were involved in bidding wars and just straight up did not win those bidding wars, or just did not want to overpay for players. I am always going to be okay with that approach. I, for one, think that that's the best thing the Chargers specifically can do right now is just not overpay for things, keep who you have, let them prove that they deserve a spot on the roster more so than anything else. And I actually am 100% behind it if that is why Harbaugh decided not to pursue anybody. Also, I feel like salary cap might be part of the reasoning as well, as these are the Chargers free agents moving forward, going into next season. Khalil Mack, Taylor Heineke, Morgan Fox, Christian Fulton, DJ Chark, Easton Stick, Denzel Perriman, J.K. Dobbins, Asante Samuel Jr., Troy Dye, Puna Ford, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Palmer, Elijah Molden, Tier Tart, Hayden Hurst, Bradley Bozeman, Chris Rumpf II, Semi Fehoko, Foster Morel, Brendan Johnson, Nick Neiman, and Stone Smart. I can already tell you that there's at least probably 10 players to maybe a dozen out of those that I'd want to keep, Elijah Molden being one of those, which, by the way, we gave up only a 7th round for Elijah Molden, and he has 3 interceptions for us, and could have been, I think, 4 or 5, but some of those were called back. Obviously, players like Khalil Mack, if he wants to stick around, I'd love to keep him. Christian Fulton's done very well. J.K. Dobbins, I hope we re-sign, but there's a lot of players here, and a good chunk of them are good role players or starters for us. And right now, Harbaugh, I believe, is going to want to know who he's going to keep out of those guys before he brings in anybody else. Next thing is I want to talk a little bit to the I would talk to the Browns fan base, but they were actually pretty nice moving into this game. I think they knew what they were going up against. However, I cut my segment short last week. I didn't want to extend it too far since it was obviously supposed to be a low-key one. I will say it now. For Saints fans that thought they were going to be able to beat the Chargers last week, you should have known better. Your team is dog shit. You'll always be dog shit. Last time your team was anything good was when Sean Payton was there, and he left after a year after Drew Brees left because he knows that team was going to be fucking dog shit, and didn't want his win percentage and to have his name tainted by such a dog shit team. He's obviously now with the Broncos. He had a shaky year one, kind of in the middle ground. They're looking pretty good this year, not having beaten really anybody yet, but you can't really snuff out a 5-4 record. With the Saints, though, it wouldn't have mattered if Derek Carr was playing. You guys still would have lost. Derek Carr is not good. He was never more than maybe a mid-level quarterback. He had that one good season where he broke his fucking leg in half and never has gotten back to that level again. Raiders fans, again, you guys talk so much shit. You guys still haven't admitted you guys are fucking out of this fucking playoff race. I don't know how you have any thoughts in your head that you guys can climb back into it at this point. But then again, this is the same fan base that thought beating the Chargers last year was helping them when all that really did was give the Chargers Harbaugh, and now puts you guys firmly back in the basement where you belong and where you will always be. No, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that the coach from Denver, Sean Payton, didn't go to the Raiders. You want to know why I'm wondering why he didn't go there? Because the Raiders are a perfect landing spot for them. They're dirty-ass players, and hell, they can have a Bounty Gate 2.0 there, and it'll fit in just well with how they play. They don't even have to make it look blatant. They just love to be dirty. For those of you that don't remember Bounty Gate, that was quite a thing quite a few years ago. And I feel like the Saints are actually doing that again now after seeing how one of their players specifically has been trying to take people's heads off every game. And I mean not just trying to tackle them, but actually aim for the head. Which, by the way, the player that tried to hurt Justin Herbert, he did end up getting, I believe he was fined like half of his game check for that. I still think it should have been a suspension. But apparently the wheel of discipline landed on shitty fucking fine instead of at least taking away a couple game checks or suspending him. Another thing I want to say is going back to the trade deadline real quick. The Chargers didn't really needed to trade for anybody. Would I have loved to see them trade for a tight end? Yes. An O-lineman? Of course. Another corner even? Sure. But with how the defense is playing, it's not necessary to pick up another corner at this point. With how the offense is playing, you can maybe try to get another O-lineman, but there are a few in free agency right now that might be able to play in that spot that we can just pay for the year and then let go of after the season's done if we wanted to. No sense in getting rid of draft capital when you're a, air quotes, rebuilding team. Yes, keep that in mind, Nick. We were supposed to be a rebuilding team, and we're sitting at 5-3 right now. Other teams that are doing that are obviously the Redskins are also labeled as that, and they're 7-2. But we were supposed to be a rebuilding team. I remember a lot of people talking shit about this team not being able to compete this year. I don't think they're going to make it to the Super Bowl, obviously, but I told you there's a good chance that I thought they would be able to make the playoffs. And now, Nick, I get to say I told you so because we're kind of on the way to doing that. There was one more thing I wanted to mention here. Oh yeah, you went off on the Bears kind of yesterday. I'm gonna go off on the Bears this time. I kind of did them a little shot at the end of mine. But seriously, guys, this fucking Bears team never learns their lesson. This Bears fan base never learns their lesson. They constantly switch quarterback, coordinator, or coach, quarterback, coach, quarterback, coach. Here's the thing. Fire both of them at the same time if you're going to do that, and make it to where your rookie doesn't learn one system just for that dumbass to get fired, so he has to learn another system, and then make him look like shit for another 2 years before he goes somewhere else and probably plays better for a new team than your team. That's one thing, obviously, my co-host knows from being there for 20-plus years. that this is always going to be their fatal flaw. They never want to rebuild around one player unless they have instant success. They want to constantly switch out the quarterback and switch out the coach, even though that's been proven not to work. But hell, Bears front office and shit are just insane at this point because they keep trying the same thing and it never fucking changes. Me and Nick here can probably run the Bears better than any fucking Bears owner or coach or anything has done in the last 20 years because we know how to keep players that are actually worth a damn. Whereas they are just like, oh, Justin Fields is good for this team. Oh, Justin Fields is loved by the fan base. Fuck him. We're going to get Caleb's mid-ass and have him get fucking ruined too. And that's the thing. You and I, we don't like Caleb because of his attitude. We also we want him to kind of succeed, but we also kind of like watching him not succeed. But at this point, you and I spoke of this yesterday, and I'm kind of with you now. We feel a little bit bad for Caleb now. A little bit bad. You never like seeing a quarterback lose that fire and look like he doesn't like playing anymore. And that's kind of where we're at with Caleb at this point. I think you and I can both say we saw that not only last week, but the week before. He doesn't look like he wants to be there now. And again, it does kind of suck, but at the same time, as long as the Bears fan base keeps thinking their quarterback's better than mine, I'm going to continue to talk shit until they learn. So in that regard, I'm not going to stop, but I do hope that Caleb does bounce back to some degree against New England. Because again, you don't like seeing a player lose that fire to play. We saw it happen to guys like Andrew Luck. It's way too early for it to happen to Caleb. But yeah, I think that does it for my segment. I think I got basically everything I wanted to say out onto the table. So I'll go ahead and charge it up there.
That was a big one, Ken. Jesus Christ. Guys, I don't really have much to say for mine, but guys, nonetheless, welcome to the Houston Huddle.
Houston, we have a problem.
Houston, we do indeed have a problem, and it's with the offensive line. The offensive line obviously has struggled these last couple of weeks, arguably ever since the game with Green Bay, which we ended up losing by a game-winning field goal due to Brandon McManus. But nonetheless, it's been a rough go of things for a supposed Super Bowl contending team. Obviously, we need to get things back on track as far as the offensive line goes. We need to protect CJ some more. Obviously, seeing CJ get up slowly the last couple of games has been, very heart-wrenching, and it makes us very worried because that man is our franchise. But nonetheless, I'm hoping to see us at least put up a decent fight against Detroit. Like I said, I don't have us winning as much as I hate going against my boys like that. But it's a tough matchup. Detroit's a very powerful team right now. And, yeah, that's all I really got for this segment. Guys, closing segment of the show, the one the show is named after. And then, guys, of course, we will head out of here. Thank you for sticking with us through this long episode of the Helmet Haven. Welcome to Fuck Up of the Week.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
All right, guys. So this fuck up of the week, for those of you that follow the news somewhat, already know who this is going to probably be. For those of you that don't, some college kid was following Jason Kelce. Those of you that don't know him for whatever reason, that's Travis Kelce's brother. He went to a Penn State game. Apparently, a college student was following him around the entire time, constantly shouting stuff about him, probably, before bringing up Travis Kelce and calling him the slur for gay, by the way. That's kind of what I think drove Kelce over the edge. He smashed the guy's phone. The guy then followed him, kind of tried to shove him over, didn't work, and then got into his face. Apparently, after the recording ended, this is based off of a witness, so I don't know if it actually happened. We can only trust the witness in this case. But apparently, he continued to follow Jason after getting into his face and even tried tripping him. To me personally, it's never a good idea to antagonize someone who's bigger than you and whose job was to take on people about his size on the regular.
Yeah, no, definitely not a smart move by the kid.
Yeah. I will say Jason Kelsey, I believe wrongfully so, did apologize for this. I understand the whole public eye thing, so he kind of had to. I would not have apologized for putting this fucking dumbass in his place like Kelsey had to do. But again, I understand why he did it. He does have an image that he doesn't want tarnished by it. So, big ups to him because I definitely would not have apologized for it.
Well, guys, that does it for Fuck Up of the Week, guys. That, as a matter of fact, does it for the show this week, guys. It's been a fun week, guys. Thank you for bearing with us through 2 days of recording, obviously. We had to take a bit of a bye week due to some complications. But nonetheless, we're back. We're back every week, guys, until the Super Bowl. And, guys, it's coming up fast. It's coming up fast. Kenny, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, season felt like it just started yesterday, and we're already sitting here at week 10. That's kind of insane. I hope you all stay productive, stay safe at wherever you're at, stay cool or stay warm depending on where you're at with the climate at the moment. And obviously, we hope you all had a wonderful Halloween. We'll have, 2 more shows before Thanksgiving?
Yes, I believe so.
We'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah. We will have to discuss a
definitely.
Thanksgiving schedule because I will have to be out of town for a little while. But yeah.
You'll probably figure that out when we get to it.
Yeah.
We can do something like this again if we need to as well. It's not that big a
Exactly.
deal. But obviously, again, guys, hope your guys' teams win unless you're a Raider fan, in which case you can go fuck yourself. And just have a nice rest of your day.
Yeah, guys, thank you for bearing with us through 2 days of recording, guys. Again, it's been very fun with what's been going on in the league.
Yeah.
We're glad to be back for all of your guys' own entertainment. Guys, we will see you guys next week. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, let's go Texans.
So my words gon' make it float. I'm like dry ice mixed with alcohol in a bowl. Or below zero winter, go and grab a coat. What else can I say? The kid is just too cold. Never told a fib, was born just too bold. Never had to fold, but did break the mold. And as the story's told, if you didn't know, I'm running up the scope. This is DMO. Can you hear me? There's some of them minds, man, they better fear me. They need glasses, they can't see it clearly. I don't chase the money, it just like to come near me. Yearly, truly, my life is a movie. Took her on a date once, now she tryna groove me. I'm really that guy, they gon' have to sue me. Then had the juice, time to mix it like a smoothie. Groovy, they asked me how I get up, I told them had to start down. Found me some real ones, now I got a crew now. Met a loyal girl 4 years later, that's my boo wow. And now I'm out here giving new sounds like boom pow.
I'm Raps MVP, and I ain't going nowhere.